Hey, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Happy
April Fools.
Start of trial day?
Oh, start of trial day.
It's time for a Readathon.
Somebody dropped the trial today, like Beyonce would.
All right, here we are for the Readathon, and there's a couple of things I want to talk about. First off, I want to talk about some motions that Bev Cannoni decided on before today that a lot of people are talking about, okay? Do you remember that guy, Michael Easter, former FBI employee who the defense wanted to bring in to talk about the quality of the police investigation?
Sure.
Yeah, not allowed in.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of not surprised. I really don't know what he would bring other than maybe a backdoor way of explaining there was a federal investigation into this.
Well, Kevin, it was basically like, this is what normal procedure is supposed to look like, and this is what this looked like. Judge Cannoni, in the affirming of the Commonwealth's request to keep him out, because it was their request, said essentially, jurors will know what a police investigation is supposed to look like.
Okay.
That was the reason. It's like, how will they know? Because the whole thing about trials, Kevin, is that you're supposed to assume the jurors coming in like a blank slate, right?
Yeah.
Not Judge Cannoni. She believes they will know what a police investigation is supposed to look like, and therefore this witness is not allowed.
All right.
Another big one that she ruled on was the third-party culprit motion, which, the Commonwealth wanted to block them from doing a third-party defense. They, of course, wanted to do a third-party defense. This was denied in part, affirmed in part. So listen to this. She's allowing the defense to bring up a third-party culprit defense for Brian Albert and for Brian Higgins, but not for Colin Albert.
Interesting. I don't know if you split the baby here or there, but...
Well, the reasoning is that in the first trial, it was proven that Colin Albert had been picked up before Karen and John arrived. This is problematic because it was not proven. She's talking about those screenshot text messages between him and Allie McCabe, where Allie McCabe has a comma. It's day of the week, comma, month name, comma, year. It's not formatted the way that timestamps usually formatted in text. So whether or not those texts are legit is actually not confirmed. It's kind of in dispute. They did not have the metadata. It was literally screenshots that they were allowed to take and hand in. And so... But she's essentially saying, you're grasping. It's been proven that he wasn't there. Thoughts?
Well, I think that's, Colin is a big part of the defense's theory, especially when you've got somebody who apparently has somewhat of an axe to grind against John O'Keefe. And you've got the photos of him with the busted up knuckles, right? Just on one hand, on the old punching hand that he apparently sustained when falling, slipping, and breaking his fall Iron Man style.
That's right.
Instead of like putting your hand out flat, making a fist and stopping yourself like Superman does when he hits the ground from a flight. I guess if she were to cut out any sort of defense argument that somebody else did it, then that would be like very crippling to the defense. Yeah.
So, Kevin, another thing I want to talk about is today, the town of Canton released its police audit report. Do you know about this?
Oh, well, I remember this being a big deal at the city council meeting. And who conducted the audit?
It was an independent agency that does this.
Okay. All right.
That's not important. What's important is what's in the audit.
All
okay.
Right.
This was a big bone of contention between residents and the council, the town council, because it was going to cost money, right?
Sure.
And a couple people on the city council were like, no, it's too expensive. Remember that Huffy dude? And people were like, this is what's ripping our community apart. It needs to be done. So ultimately, they decided to pay for this huge audit. It came in today. It's hundreds of pages of long.
How did Councilor Chris Albert vote on this?
I don't remember. But the thing you need to know is it's centered around the O'Keefe investigation.
Yeah, okay.
It literally says there's also stuff about the Sandra Birchmore investigation, but they were specifically asked to look at that investigation, and they were specifically asked to look at every aspect of the police department. So imagine how they handle public complaints, how they handle training, how they interview witnesses, like everything, every aspect of their work.
Oh, it's too bad that Judge Canoni won't let this report in. But go ahead. Tell us what's in it. What do they find?
Well, it's really interesting because ultimately, I won't bury the lead. They said they found no evidence that the Canton police participated in a cover-up. Okay. However, they found major deficiencies in the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe, such as not securing the crime scene, such as not interviewing the people in the house, such as
solo cups.
No, they actually didn't mind the solo. They called that innovative, actually, which is interesting.
All right.
They talked about the fact that evidence was found days later, which shows they didn't do a thorough search of the crime scene. They didn't secure the crime scene. There should have been a cop planted there all the time. Lots and lots of deficiencies, including who should have been recused and who shouldn't. But what's interesting to me, there's a few things in here that are interesting to me. One is a huge deficiency in their handling of Sallyport video. The report, by the way, differs from claims made by the Commonwealth in this case. The report says that the auditors were told all of the footage from when Karen Read's car arrived and when it was there for the several days had been recorded, and it was such a big file that the guy who uploaded it to their server or their drive did it in 6-hour chunks. However, the Canton police did not just release all of that video to the Massachusetts State Police. They just kept it, and they sent these tiny little chunks here and there. So she basically blamed that on the Canton police. And I'll tell you, Kevin, when I look at the screenshots of the videos in this report, they are a fuck ton clearer than what we see in court. Like the quality of the screenshots is actually pretty crisp.
Oh, okay.
And it led me to wonder what was wrong with the video that we saw in court, because honestly, it just doesn't look as clear. And Hank Brennan has asserted many times that the video they've given the defense is all they have, okay? It's all they have. But this kind of indicates that maybe that's not true, and that certainly there is or was many, many, many hours of video. Where it is now, as we've heard in the courtroom, we don't know. But the report says that no police officer ever stored the video on their personal devices, which is also countered as one thing we heard in court, which is that this former cop had it on his iCloud account and stuff like that. So they said there was no intentional monkeying, but the handling of that evidence was poor. And they have a whole chain of custody and log of custody thing that they would like the Canton police to do. They have basically every time they have sort of the written report, there's a series of recommendations afterwards.
Okay.
This is the thing that really stuck out to me.
How long was this report? You
Hundreds
read all
of pages. It's like 250 pages long.
And you read the whole thing?
I read the whole thing. It's hard. It's an easy read. I'm going to be honest with you. It's an easy read. So they have the Canton PD.
They have QR codes with audio clips.
By the way, there's 34 Fairview. They do have QR codes with audio clips.
Look at that.
Look how nice and clear that photo is. They have the Canton PD, the morning investigation that related to the Canton PD in this huge timeline. And I just want to read it to you. Some highlights, okay? I won't read it all because it's long. 5:04, Carrie Roberts calls the Canton Police Department reporting that Mr. O'Keefe had not returned home because, remember, Karen was freaking out. 6:04, Jen McCabe calls 911. The Canton Police Department received that call, and she identified the man on the lawn as John O'Keefe. Okay? Miss McCabe's call was passed over. Sergeant Good dispatched...
I like how it was listed as guy unresponsive in snow.
Yes.
A guy. Okay,
yes.
Continue.
Sergeant Good dispatched Officer Seraph and Mullaney to 34 Fairview and notified Sergeant Lank and Lieutenant Gallagher to respond. Okay? 6:09, first responders come in. They note that Mr. O'Keefe was bleeding and his skin was cold to the touch. And they also noted that Karen Read was distraught and could not tell him what happened. 6:12, Canton Police Officer Mullaney arrived and observed a female conducting CPR on John O'Keefe. Officer Mullaney reported he arrived in concert with the fire rescue personnel and assisted them in placing John O'Keefe in the rescue. Okay? Ms. Read was hysterical and made comments such as, "Is he dead? And that's my boyfriend." Officer Mullaney reported that Sergeant Good told Ms. Roberts to take Ms. Read home. Officer Mullaney reported Reed's father called Canton PD and reported that Karen was suicidal and that Sergeant Good then made them take her to the hospital. So basically they're saying that the fire department emergency medical service arrived at 6:12. So they're sort of messing up the timeline here, but eventually she was recommended to go to the hospital. Okay. 6:14, Sergeant Good arrives, noted that Mr. O'Keefe was in the ambulance. Ms. McCabe, Ms. Reed, and Ms. Roberts were standing outside the house. Sergeant Good reported he asked Ms. Reed how she arrived at 34 Fairview, and she stated, "I don't know." Sergeant Good reported Ms. Reed was yelling, acting hysterical, stating, "Is he dead?" Good asked Ms. Reed if she drove to 34 Fairview last night, and she said, "I think so. I can't remember." Okay? Ms. Reed and Ms. McCabe were placed in the backseat of a patrol car. On scene, Ms. McCabe provided Good with a timeline of events leading up to the discovery of John O'Keefe. 6:24. Canton PD Detective Sergeant Lenk took command. Ms. Reed was hysterical, he notes, and he attempted to obtain a statement from her, but it was unsuccessful. 6:38. Sergeant Lenk contacted the Massachusetts State Police with a brief summary of the condition of John O'Keefe. While Canton police officers were at the scene, they reported they heard Ms. Reed make statements such as, "Is he going to die?" and "Is he dead?" and further noted that Ms. Reed was hysterical.
You know what I don't hear in any of this?
What?
I hit him.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know what else you don't hear?
What?
Jen, can you please look up how long it takes for someone to die in the snow?
Right. Yeah,
Which was
okay.
like at 6:07 or whatever they're saying it was. That isn't here. And they were there at that time, and they were observing her, noting her. Sergeant Lenk also took a statement from Ms. McCabe, who provided a timeline. After taking a statement from Ms. McCabe on the scene, Lenk reported he contacted the owners of 34 Fairview, who provided statements. Note, Matthew McCabe was at 34 Fairview at this time and gave a statement to Sergeant Lenk. Matt McCabe was there at 6:38 a.m. That's Jen McCabe's husband, Matt. 9 a.m., Sergeant Lenk was contacted at Canton Police by Ms. McCabe, who requested Sergeant Lenk return to 34 Fairview Road. Lenk and Gallagher responded to 34 Fairview Road and spoke to Ms. McCabe, who advised that when Ms. McCabe, Ms. Roberts, and Ms. Reed were driving around looking for John O'Keefe, Ms. Reed stated something to the effect of, "I hope I didn't hit him," and believed Ms. Reed made these statements on scene in the presence of a police officer. This information is documented in Sergeant Lenk's police report and supplemental narrative report of events.
Okay.
She said that Ms. Reed said something like, "I hope I didn't hit him." Canton Fire Rescue transported Mr. O'Keefe at 6:24, so we're going back in time, and that's also when Ms. Reed was sent to the hospital. 7:50, John O'Keefe is declared dead at Good Samaritan Hospital. So, all these police are there. And as we've heard again and again and again, no one heard and no one documented her saying, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." And no one heard or documented her asking Jen McCabe to do that Google search. Not unimportant.
Okay.
I have a theory. So we have heard that these Google searches could be on tabs, that are open at a certain period of time.
Yeah.
We all know that Lenk wasn't on the scene for some time between 7 or whatever and 9 a.m. And that Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe were there with the Alberts. What if Jen McCabe made the search then? What if she used a tab that she originally opened at 6:07 or whatever, and that's when she made the search, when they were talking about maybe what they should call the police back to the scene and tell them?
I don't know. That's interesting.
It's an interesting idea.
But I mean, it's an interesting idea, but maybe there's no way to know.
Yeah, there's no way to know, but that's an alternative theory that I don't think anyone's mentioned before. It's just a theory, just speculation, and I actually not sure about it. But it is notable that they gave that statement to the police after the 4 of them were all together, and they were able to call the 2 cops they wanted to come back and give that statement. That statement was not given at the scene. Jen talked to 2 officers and gave them statements, never even said that she said, "I hope I didn't hit him." So anyway, so that's a very, very interesting timeline. They talk about the search. Look at all these incredible photographs they have that some of them were in the trial. But the photographs are really, really good in the police report. The conclusion here was that the police investigation was shoddy, and they made a ton of recommendations. First off, the police drive around Canton with no evidence collection kits in their car. They don't have cameras. They never photographed the body. They didn't guard the scene. The chain of evidence was horrible. So they go on and on and on in the video stuff. So it's basically like, this is shoddy, this is shoddy, this is shoddy. And in the report, they point to some other practices of the Canton police that aren't great. And then they point to some that seem fine. So it's a really interesting report. I'll put a link to it in the show notes so folks can read it for themselves. I would recommend it. It's a little bit like reading a book about the Karen Reed case.
But that's not all that happened today.
Well, today, was the first day officially of the Karen Read trial, and jury selection began.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the process that Judge Beverly Cannoni said she would use for jury selection?
Does it have to do with the questionnaire?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, remind everybody.
So she brought them in, and she did the first thing of voir dire, which is everyone is sitting in the courtroom, and at this batch was 92 people.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, there's going to be like 2,200 or something people. This batch was 92 people, and then she asked them group questions. The most important group question that she asked you to raise your hand if the answer was yes. Remember, 92 people.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of the Karen Read case? Guess how many people out of 92 had heard of the Karen Read case?
I'm going to say, I bet 75% of them.
78 out of 92 people.
Oh, it's almost 80%. Yeah.
Yeah, had heard of the Karen Read case. How many do you think had already made up their mind about the Karen Read case?
I don't know a number, but I bet a big chunk, like 40.
That's exactly right. 40 people had already made up their mind about the Karen Read case. Now, it's very clear this jury selection is going to take a long-ass time.
Yeah.
Because what they do afterwards...
I've made up my mind that I do not want to be on this jury.
Right. Of the people that remain, they then call people up to the bench, right?
Yeah.
Judge Cannoni makes notes of who raised their hands for what.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts calling people up to the bench and asking them. And by the way, that wasn't the only question that she asked them in that group. She asked them things like, would you have any problems understanding the concept that a person is innocent until proven guilty? Some people actually said they had problems understanding that.
Sure.
Which said to me, like, they just want to get out of jury duty.
Yeah, it could be. But also some people are honest about, well, if they're here in court, they must have done something.
Yeah, that's true. So a bunch of people said that. Anyway, so then she begins bringing jurors, kind of on demand up to the podium.
Mm-hmm.
One juror she talked to for more than 10 minutes, leading other jurors in the gallery, Aidan Carney reported, like tittering and complaining and looking at each other and being like, this is going to take forever. So clearly, this is going to take a long ass time.
Do we know what happened to that potential juror?
The potential juror was not allowed in. So what
Dismissed.
we know from the end of today is they have chosen, out of these 91 people, one juror.
So with alternates, how many people are they shooting for in the jury pool?
I believe it's 15.
Okay.
But I could be 14, but I think it was 15 last time. It was 14 or 15. So finally, today in court, guess who was there?
I don't know.
Karen Read's new lawyer, Victoria George.
Former Karen Read juror.
Correct.
Okay.
People speculated that she wouldn't be a lawyer appearing in court, that she would likely be working behind the scenes of the legal team. Nope. She showed up at court today, introduced herself to the judge, and introduced herself to the prospective jury. She didn't say, I'm a former juror in this case. Yeah. But she did say attorney Victoria George for Karen Read.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what happened today. I mean, there isn't a ton to report. I will say Aidan Carney filed an emergency motion to be excluded from the sequestration order, meaning that he would be able to report on the trial.
Yeah.
No news on that yet. And, these orders are sort of drib-drabbing in, the ones that hadn't been decided yet. And so far, the defense is not doing great as far as their orders go. So that's where we are.
Okay.
There's going to be more tomorrow. If anything happens besides people being called up and asked questions, if anything happens where I can actually see what's happening in the courtroom, or if any documents are released that are important, we will talk tomorrow. If we don't talk tomorrow, it's because it was a boring ass day where they were just asking people questions. And if anything little happened, I'll save it for the next Readathon. Deal?
Deal.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin, and happy trial first day.
Partners in Crime Media.